SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. The wait is over.
Let's get this thing started.
Go! Welcome, one and all across the nation and around the world. I welcome you all to episode 115 of the In or Out Sports Debate. I'm your host, Drew Willingham, along with this week's very special panelist, making his debut to this show tonight. For the first ever time, got to welcome somebody else to the Vault of Fame at the end of this episode. He is the head honcho of Shady Sports Network, an avid fan of the Philadelphia Eagles, and covers literally all things football, which is something I'm going to have a great time with tonight. We're going to get along just fine. Please welcome the man himself, Sam Shady. Welcome to the show there, brother.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited for it.
Hey, I appreciate it. Likewise, brother. Like I said, it takes a lot of work to get to this point with 115 episodes, and for you to be a part of this special project that I've had now for 4 years is definitely good to finally get you up on here, because there's been some hiatuses at some points. I've had to take a break from it, from just getting to know you there in the green room about the schedule. So just glad to still be able to keep the dream alive. And with that being said, speaking of other dreams we've had, we got to acknowledge those who have taken the time before you and after this episode again in the Vault of Fame.
Acknowledge me.
Man, you took me back. This is why this show was so important, and this is why I am personally validating and vouching for this show. If you are anybody in media, sports, professional wrestling, anything, you need to be on In or Out Sports Debate with my man Drew Willingham, because this has got to be one of the most fun things I've ever done in a long time.
Ladies and gentlemen, that right there is the In or Out Sports Debate Vault of Fame, which you can find on these plugged audio platforms right here on Amazon Prime, Spotify, Google Podcasts, as well as on iTunes, where you can download it, as well as here at SIRTOBA Media's video platforms, Facebook, Instagram, now X, and YouTube, as well as you can check out the latest on SIRTOBA.com. That was the Vault of Fame, which this is what is up to date through the previous 114 episodes. There's been a lot of people on here, a lot of love happening over the years on this show when it comes to talking sports and having a good time. And we get to carry that on tonight with Sam Shady in the house. We have 5 great rounds to get through. With that being said, let's go ahead and bring up some football action again today with round 1.
Round 1.
Sam here with round 1. Let's talk a little bit of CFL action, especially with what happened through last weekend. And you got to look here with the Week 6 loss to the Toronto Argonauts will motivate the Montreal Alouettes to the 2024 Grey Cup. Pretty bold statement there when it comes to that one right there. How do you feel about that? Are you in or are you out on this one?
I am out. All right, so Montreal has shown some cracks in the armor prior to this week, and it was only a matter of time before this loss happened. Last week we watched them play Calgary. They won by 4 points, and that's really only because of the fact that Calgary got away from the quarterback run, which has slashed and gashed Montreal all season long. Last week Stevens had Man, 57 carries for 2 touchdowns, 57 yards on 8 carries and 2 touchdowns. Dukes this past week had 9 carries for 46 yards. And if you look at the passing game, Dukes really wasn't asked to beat the world, which is why we ended up seeing a victory here by Toronto. On offense, you look at Montreal, and they've outscored opponents by 49 points this season so far. But in this past game, they obviously lost by a good margin. They've played great complementary football, but that's why I think there's chinks in this armor. If you look at Cody Fajardo, he is not an elite quarterback, never has been, probably never will be. He throws a lot of interceptions, and over the past couple of years, he has been known for basically a 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. This past week, actually, he got hurt as well, which is now a huge question mark moving forward. So if Fajardo returns, there are definitely less question marks. I'm just not a big fan of Caleb Evans, but definitely looking forward to see what Montreal can do moving forward. But I do not see them as a Grey Cup contender in 2024.
Yeah, because it's definitely been a carousel of backup quarterbacks getting in the game when it comes to the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Montreal Alouettes. And with the points that you made with that, I actually agree with you on this topic. I'm going to go out as well. You know, Sam brought up some really great points with the Montreal Alouettes and their backup quarterback situation. I mean, Cody Fajardo has been struggling all season long. We're only a third of the way of the 2/3 of this season at this point through 6 games in an 18-game season. And he has put up some absolute dumpster Pelican numbers at different points in games here. You got to look at his overall production. And you brought it up there with the stats too, and I'll kind of, rebuttal with that with throwing some extra layers on that cake for you. And when you look at this right here, I think the team that you really have to look out for now, especially with the way that they won over the Rough Riders this past weekend, is the BC Lions. I mean, they won 35-20. They exposed several different holes within that Rough Riders team. They definitely affected how that game ended. And we definitely saw a better game out of the week between, the Stampeders and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who took them till game 5 of the year to get their first win. They were struggling all throughout the first month of the season and now have back-to-back wins based on how they've been turning things around. So, the Rough Riders had a good going into the bye week. They were 4-0, and they've been 1-1 since the bye week, and they had their first test against the BC Lions. I think that's the team that we're going to have to keep our eye on as far as when they can successfully contend for a Grey Cup this year. I mean, of course, we're going to probably see some surprises. There's some other teams because there's still a long season ahead. And, of course, the Alouettes could bounce back. I mean, this was kind of a toss-up for me. I'm going to be honest. I almost went in on this, but thinking about it more as we got closer towards the show, and especially some of the points that Sam brought up during his time to talk about this, I got to agree. There's other teams besides the Montreal Alouettes who've been hot. If the Rough Riders are the team that I think could potentially take what they had coming to them this past weekend and use that as motivation to potentially, contend for a Grey Cup, because they've been a dumpster Pelican team for several years, 6-12 here, and there in different years throughout the past 4 or 5 years consistently. They're due. Plus, I like their uniforms, and I've adopted them as my favorite team this year because I like the green colors. I like their entrance. I like the name Saskatchewan Rough Riders. Even though the Montreal Alouettes are more like Ryan McCarthy's team, and he preached their history to me the last time he was on Total Football Talk, and we talked about them for a little bit since this is CFL season. Don't get me started, Sam Shady. My number one topic, just like Cole and I have our weekly show for 2 hours where we talk about all things football. You definitely opened up a can of worms when you suggested that it just be an all football show. And we're going to give them that type of action tonight here on episode 115 there, sir.
I love it. I love starting off with CFL. Great league to watch. If you haven't checked it out, I strongly recommend it. Games are on CBS Sports now, so very easy to find.
Absolutely. And, if you do have access to TSN, I believe, TSN, you can watch it there too, which in CBS Sports Network. So there's options to watch it. Some people are like, well, it's not on primetime TV. And when you look at the attendance, the UFL is the one that's lucky to be on primetime TV. But we'll talk about our opinion on that here in a little bit. But we have to get to some breaking news before we get started with round 2 that just came into the earpiece over here. We got to see what's up going on over here. And for some reason, StreamYard messing with me, moving some things around. Let's go ahead and click it now. And finally, that breaking news is this. Next week, same time as tonight, you will find this show back on the interwebs, on your YouTube streams, on your TikTok streams with shorts, with Twitch streams, and all sorts of different streams. You can find me professionally on LinkedIn with this show right here. That's why we don't cuss. But yeah, long intro to this, but we have a breaking news update that 116 is here next Tuesday. We have Sean Mears returning for his second appearance, and Marcus Putz, a teammate of mine on my semi-pro baseball team, is the first one to make their appearance on this show. He's been a fan for a while, been showing love for the platform ever since I started building it last year, and it's his treat to be here next week, just like Sam Shady tonight. But we got a lot more in store for this episode. Don't you get too excited about that one. We got to get through this one first. We need y'all to stick around. We need to see you in the comments. And speaking of the comments, let's acknowledge some of those comments real quick. Ike is here. Ike says, "Oh, fuck yeah." And he's crafty with his wording, just like with his name there. He says, "Oh, fuck yeah." 115 he has. He's excited. What's up, everyone? Along with Mickey Delaney in the house saying, "Hi, everyone." And Sam, stay in your lane. Sam hasn't even drifted over the line yet there, Mick. Okay, we haven't even gotten to that part of the show, if we even get to that point of the show. He's driving pretty good right now. He's following the leader. That's how we're playing this game all through episode 115. And as always, to those of you watching, whether it's on Shady Sports Network right now, whether it's live right now or syndicated, or on SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome, you can subscribe now and never miss out on new content, as we have content Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays consistently here on this network. And again, I'm just going to say, Mick, I don't know what you were getting with that, but since I missed my cue earlier, since Mick is in the house and Ike is in the house, we'll say this to you. Let's go ahead and take this unit into round 2.
Round 2.
Here with round 2, a team that Sam is really familiar with, a team that I had to see 2 times a year in the same division when it comes to the team that I cover. But, we're going to keep it respectfully, to a T with this one. And when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles, the 2024 draft class, this year's draft class will be the one that will get the Philadelphia Eagles back into Super Bowl contention. When you really look back and you think on this statement at hand, Sam, what do you think? Are you going to agree with this statement? Are you going to go in, or are you going to be out on this one?
This one's really hard, and I'll get into why, but I am out.
Okay.
So the reason I'm out on this one is because the Eagles build a year in advance. So the 2024 draft class is not really going to see their biggest impact until 2025 at the very earliest. If you look in years past, in 2022, we drafted Jordan Davis to take over for Javon Hargrave, which eventually ended up leaving in free agency the following year. In 2023, we took Jalen Carter, who was the eventual replacement for Fletcher Cox. Nolan Smith was the eventual replacement for Hassan Reddick. Now, this year, we've got Quinyon Mitchell and then also Cooper DeJean, who are the potential replacements for James Bradbury and Darius Slay.
Mm-hmm.
I say potential because Cooper DeJean could technically kick over and play free safety as well. And if that's the case, then realistically, we could keep Slay or Bradbury for the long term and look for another defensive back. I also like the pick of Jalix Hunt. But again, I think he's going to be more of a role player. At best, he's probably our 4th pass rusher behind Bryce Huff, Josh Sweat, and then you also have, the aforementioned Nolan Smith. So while I do believe that this depth is going to be incredibly useful and incredibly important throughout the 2024 season, given what we witnessed last year when James Bradbury was shifted into the slot, we really couldn't cover outside receivers at the number 2 position. I really think that that's going to come in handy down the road in the playoff stretch. I just don't think that they're going to be key contributors in 2024 unless there's a major injury somewhere.
That's definitely well thought out. And from somebody who gets the perspective, because you see them a lot. I mean, you study them, you analyze them, you talk about them on your platform. So as much as I really like your answer, for the sake of debate, I'm going to take the Homer answer, and I'm not even a fan of the team, but I'm going to give them some facts. So definitely make them think otherwise a little bit. At least make them think a little bit. There's some riddles because I'm in. Would you have thought that a guy with the emblem in the same colors as your rival Okay. A guy with a tattoo half sleeve on his arm, with part of it being the old emblem. Okay. Because that's how diehard of a fan I was, with the microphone, the camera, and all the stuff that, encompass the dream of what I'm following right here, right? This means a lot. For me to have the colors of that, the logo over there, and for you to hear in, you got to know that either for the sake of the debate, it's just to challenge somebody for a good rebuttal, or that actually has something to back it up. Let's bring this graphic back up here, the 2024 graphic. And first of all, if you guys have ever seen Angels in the Outfield from the 90s, it can happen. You just got to believe. All right. We're going to believe it right now when I bring this up with this graphic right here. This draft class was actually pretty respectable. You brought up some really good points with some of these players, being brought in to eventually replace the veterans who will either get too expensive or just, their bodies. It's time to move on at that point. This is a better way to say it. Like you gotta have a succession plan. I'm with you on the, of course, for the future type of deal, but I just have a feeling that some of these players that have been picked up here, especially when you have Saquon Barkley that you just brought in, you need a solid running game, because you can't always have Jalen Hurts running the ball. You're going to put him in sticky situations to where he gets banged up too much, to where you're going to miss him for too many games, and you're not going to make a run like what has happened in different parts in the past. So looking at that, the fact that you kind of stacked up here with your running backs here, you got, Will Shipley, who's definitely no slouch from Clemson. He's definitely going to be, I feel like he's going to be a sleeper in this draft, especially when you think of the fact that you got him in round 4. You need all the help you can get with quality running. And we're seeing that with teams who can start the year out with a solid quarterback, but not with actual solid running back game. And that hurts them too much, to the point to where when you're getting to the nitty-gritty part of the year, where you have to really make an impact in your record to get into the playoffs for a wild card, but to win a division that is probably one of the toughest divisions in all of professional sports to win. That is the NFC East. We've seen it time in and time out. There's been some years where they've been the dumpster Pelican, they've been the dumpster Pelican division of the league, but overall, it is a very tough division to get the win out of. And that's why I feel like we saw so many Super Bowl victories in the past by multiple NFC East teams. It took the Eagles a while to get there. That's no shade. It's just a fact. But everybody in the NFC East has won a Super Bowl, at least one. And that is a strong fact to think about. Now, how did they get there? A lot of them got strong within the draft. Now, not all of them are expecting immediate results like what I'm calling with right here. But when you look at these players right here, that's why I've left the graphic up for so long. You got to look at where they drafted, the needs, were they really, impactful. They brought in Jeremiah Trotter Jr., which if he's anything like his father and the genetics are in there, that's going to be a steal right there in round 6, okay? 155 pick overall. I mean, that was a solid pickup. I think that's going to be a sleeper pick right there, along with Will Shipley. The wide receiver core, you already got a pretty solid wide receiver core there, and your quarterback, if he stays healthy, is going to make an impact in the game. But where you made, some improvements was with the secondary too, because you're talking about there, Bradbury, James Bradbury potentially at some point. You're going to have to move on from him. Things are going to get too expensive with certain players for one, but also you got to have succession plans for others just as a plan B. And I feel like maybe not Will Shipley as a succession to Saquon Barkley, because you got him locked up for a while. You need to get your money's worth out of him. And he's on a revenge tour because he's in the same division with the Giants that he used to play with and gets to face them twice a year. I think this year is going to be a special year out of Saquon, as long as your O-line, the replacement for Jason Kelsey, fits as the center position. Only time will tell. But I think we may be pleasantly surprised for those of us who are fans of football and watching good football. Of course. Do I want them to lose when they play against the Commanders twice a year? Of course. I mean, it's the fans' perspective. However, you still have, 15 other games? I would much rather you guys go like 14-3 and 15-2 and watch a good team play than a team just barely squeak into the playoffs, because I'm tired of seeing that and watching them getting thumped in the first round. So you got to believe. Like the kid said, Angels in the outfield. And I got to believe in competition, because competition is healthy out here. It motivates you to get better. And the Commanders made some moves in the draft this year too, which, some could argue that maybe they're one step ahead as far as draft class than the Eagles. But I'm not going to bring that into this, because that's not what this debate was about. What I am going to say is I'm going to at least give you your flowers for the certain moves that you made that I brought up during my spiel. And I feel like you might be pleasantly surprised with maybe not Super Bowl contention this year, but the next 2 to 3 years. I didn't say in this topic when. You can bring it on up here again when it comes to the wording scrolling at the bottom. Didn't say the year, but at some point in the near future based on how this is worded. I feel like this is going to come into fruition, and Jalen Hurts will get the Super Bowl that Nick Foles got for the first one, but, you know, a little bit more respectfully than what Nick Foles has got, even though Nick Foles will always get free cheesesteaks in the city of Philadelphia, from what it sounds like. Jalen Hurts, somebody who was drafted there, stuck it out, was never passed off on to another team, and then came back in a circumstantial way that not everybody gets to experience like Nick Foles did. Jalen Hurts, if he could be there from day one, he already led them to a Super Bowl. It was close. They lost. It's time to get the redemption for that. And I think the better matchup would be if they get to face the Chiefs again, because you get to, you know, take one over the team that barely knocked you out last time and beat the 49ers, who I want to see lose in the NFC Championship game. And for reasons that there are some fair weather fans out there that are way too high on them when they're winning games, and then don't want to take the full blame for why they lost the big game. So I know it was a lot, but how are you feeling after all that being said?
You know, I wish I had read that question better. I was thinking for 2024. You know, if we're talking in the future, in the near future, yes, I'm definitely in on that, especially after everything you said. I mean, honestly, I do like a lot of the picks that we made. I just think that, like I said, they're not going to be an immediate impact players, but we don't necessarily need them to be.
Yeah, of course, just like every team, you got to develop your talent, you know, because
Exactly.
they're the rare flashes in the pan that you can bring out there, like a Brock Purdy in his rookie year and just look like he's been doing it for 5 years professionally. I'll give the 49ers their credit there with finding him. But you got to have more than just one person playing consistently in order to win the game. It's a team game. There is no I in team. You know that. I mean, just like with you running your own platform, you can't do that all on your own. You got to have some help in order to get it to where it's at, just like me too. So got to pay homage to those who help you get to that point. But I feel like even if it's a small part in the next 2 to 3 years, then you had a successful draft this year, my friend. So got to give the flowers where they're due.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Well, I appreciate that, guys. When it comes to these comments in the chat too, it looks like Mick's saying that he is out. So he's with your initial thought of being out. But who would have thought that a former REDSKINS fan, who's now a Commanders fan, you know, inheritably, would have disagreed initially with the Eagles fan on a topic that's about the Eagles? I just threw y'all a professional curveball tonight when it comes to that. Those of you who know what baseball's all about out there in those streets. With that being said, we got to take a little bit of a break and show you guys some commercials real quick. We'll see you back here in about 2 minutes to keep this thing rolling.
Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast. Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $sign DWillie87. Go ahead and hit him up on the Cash App and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. About some Willie Bucks.
Drew Willingham.
In this case, yeah, you put the blame on Kyle Shanahan for apparently not preparing the team enough for the overtime rules, supposedly.
Cole Johnson.
Peyton was considered a winner, and he was the darling of all darlings for Gerald.
With a special appearance by Tyrone Alizé McDummy.
Ain't nobody calling me. Text. Delete.
Join these two football enthusiasts as they give you Total Football Talk. Live every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central on the SIRTOBA Media and the Comey Media YouTube channels.
Welcome back to the In or Out Sports Debate, episode 115. Myself, Drew Willingham, along with today's new debuting guest, Sam Shady, back for 3 more rounds. We got 3 more great rounds. All football edition tonight. We're going to take you into round 3 and see what we got in store for that one there.
Round 3.
Ask and you shall receive, as we've been talking about UFL stuff earlier in the episode, and I said, actually, I guess I was the one to ask for it, but here it goes. The UFL should consider ceasing operations after 2025 season if attendance doesn't improve significantly. Sam, when it comes to this topic right here in the UFL, what are your thoughts? Are you in or are you out on this one?
I am out on this one. So let's back up a little bit. All right. Everybody looks at the UFL as if it's not a new league, as if it's an extension of the USFL and an extension of the XFL, but it's not. If you look at the various different ways that they have approached things with the USFL and the XFL, it has changed dramatically going to the UFL. It's been a combination of the two approaches before: the bare bones budget approach by the USFL, and then the all-out, bigger than life XFL approach that produced the great attendance numbers that we saw for 2023 in the XFL. The problem with all of that is going into the merger in 2024, there was so much uncertainty for so long that it was impossible for returning fans to buy season tickets, even if they knew their team was going to be there. You know, for instance, Birmingham Stallions, Arlington Renegade fans, they could not go out and purchase season tickets until, I want to say, late February, when there was finally an announcement about the UFL merger, when we finally got dates for when the season would kick off. That's a huge deal in ticket sales. Essentially, that ticket staff was sitting around waiting to hear what happened about the league. Now, when you go ahead and remove 8 teams from that league, you get rid of casual fans in 8 different markets that had a reason to root for these leagues to succeed. And so I think that was a very difficult move to make, knowing what you were doing to the league. So I think the UFL, when they made some of these decisions, they realized that they had to make a compromise, get rid of some of these teams to bring the budget back within where they can operate for multiple years without having to have issues. But at the same time, they knew they were doing this and going to force casual fans away from the league, at least for a year. Now, when you go into 2025, I do expect an increase in attendance across the board. Now, I don't expect a dramatic increase, and multiple reasons why. One of the big reasons why is the XFL in 2023, like I mentioned, had inflated ticket staffs. So they had full teams of people out there selling tickets, giving them away, doing whatever they had to do to get those big numbers into these arenas. Obviously, we saw St. Louis continue to have success doing that in the 2024 season, but I think St. Louis would have success no matter if they had a ticket sales staff or not, to be quite honest with you. That market just wants football so bad, they're going to root for any team that goes there. But the question about the change to the USFL approach is now there's only a handful of people throughout the entire league handling ticket sales. So it's not going to be a night and day approach from one year to the next. You know, it's not going to be a huge difference. But at the same time, if we continue to see incremental differences year after year, while we also see increase in TV TV ratings, and then also social media interaction, all these key metrics for the league, I think the league has a path to survive to the point where they can wait out the attendance side of things. Obviously, we know the NFL didn't start overnight. It's not like a million people were going to all these games, you know, back in the 20s or 30s when they originally kicked off, and it was basically a handful of dudes, you know, playing football. So, we're at the point now where the UFL is in its infancy. if we let it play out, I really think that this is going to be the most successful football league we've ever seen in the U.S. outside of, maybe the original USFL that looked like they were going to be in good shape until they tried to take on the NFL.
That was definitely well said. And man, I'm like deadlocked because I want to go one way, but at the same time, for the sake of debate, I think I'm going to go in. Sam, you notice I said for the sake of debate. All right, I keep things spicy up in this thing. That's what the show's known for. All right, gotta keep it loose. All right, and with that being said, people like to watch success stories happen. Okay, but there's also the fair weather fans, not you or me. This is for the sake of debate. Just keep that in mind. All right, there's also people out there who are clamoring for this thing to fail and be like, I told you so. Like, you shouldn't have wasted the money on this, shouldn't have wasted the investment on it. The thing that's really carrying this league right now is their deal with the U.S. Army. The money that they're getting from all that. I feel like that marketing and that is what saved it get through this past season. Okay. Because like you said, they waited until like the last minute and did some poor marketing. Like whoever was in charge of their marketing, even though the merger and all that happened in like late last year, still, I feel like they could have got the promotional stuff out there. I could have done the same exact promotional stuff that they did blind very quickly after they did that merger, to where you could have gotten a little bit more eyes on the product by then. It might have helped out attendance a little bit, but I feel like no matter how early they get the stuff out to announce next year's dates, the whole dynamic about the UFL with the merger of the USFL and the XFL is different than the NFL for a variety of reasons, right? The league owns every team. There is no individual owners. At the end of the season, like their contracts end, like they are free agents. There's a lot of work that has to go into this league just to get to the 10 games that I feel like they try to squeeze in too little bit of time. It's like if you prepare for the test or do your homework the day of, you are very rarely going to succeed out here in these streets when it comes to anything that you're doing, when it comes to lack of preparation. Sometimes you hit a lucky star and you might get some help from a tutor or something. You might be able to get over the hump. But that's how things are in the old days. When it comes to real business America, they are lucky that they got through this past season. And it's because of partnerships like with the U.S. Army and some other deals too, where that revenue coming in, the lack of attendance money, even though they're getting revenue from the ratings on TV, the TV ratings are not like NFL. Okay. So the NFL can afford to have some lackluster attendance in certain places, but they still get the money revenue in. Okay. From the TV watching, this is from the ratings. So when I put all that in perspective, if this doesn't significantly improve this upcoming season in 2025, it's either going to have to make some big, bold moves next offseason in order for it to stick around for 2026. But if it does fail, I would not be surprised at the rumors about the whole NFL absorbing it as a minor league system, because that would be a great feeder system to have, because you're technically already doing that if you keep it in the same schedule anyway. You're getting all those practice squad players reps to where you might be able to see some more potential out of them than you wouldn't have seen if they were just practice squad players and getting minor reps. So there's a lot of benefits to the UFL. I just feel like their marketing team sucks. They don't have everything eloquently set out to where they have something that looks as good as like what people say of this show right here. Okay. It takes a lot of work for this to happen. And you cannot work like the management system in the UFL and get great results right here and right now when it comes to just even for the sake of debate argument. Okay. So more than likely, 98% of America is going to side with Sam Shady on this one. But for the sake of debate, just for the argument to get the headlines going, if enough people see this topic right here with the reels and stuff that come about, get you to think a little bit. It could be the end after this upcoming season.
I mean, to be completely honest, man, I'm probably being pretty biased because of my heart. Obviously I want the UFL to exist. I want them to be successful. I mean, you see the Stars hat over here, over the shoulder. I've got a Vipers football somewhere in the background as well. I've already experienced losing two teams. I don't want to lose the whole league, but at the same time, I mean, there is a bottom line to think about. So, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, it could very well go away next year. And that's why I'm going to take this opportunity to say, if you like football, support the UFL because they need you to. You know, if they're going to last, they need every fan watching, every fan going to games, buying merch, all that stuff. So do your part, please.
Because your marketing line, because you're 100% right with that. Your marketing line could have been from week 1 of UFL season, when it kicks off week 1, you will not have a week without football until the very last week of the year. It goes football every single week. So you're kind of cross promoting between CFL and NFL, but it gets those diehard fans of the NFL excited when their baseball team sucks or their basketball team got eliminated from the playoffs or didn't even make the playoffs, but you love football, so you want to try something different on the day off, check something out, and you might get hooked. I would say that me covering it with Cole each week on Total Football Talk, definitely I was already interested in the UFL because I watched the XFL last year and all this, the USFL. But I have been more hyped over the CFL this year than of any year of my 37 years on this planet because I watched it here and there, but I wasn't really invested. Like, now I got reasons to be invested, but the more I watch, the more like I'm kind of getting that feeling of like, this is cool. Like, we got football every single week from UFL week 1, and as long as you stay up with it, you can ride that awesome wave all the way through the end of CFL while your preseason for NFL starts just before that and goes into the end of the year. So there's a long season in CFL and there's also a long season in NFL. But those of us like you and I who are diehard fans of just the game itself, and you looking into arena football and other different leagues for the sport, you know, when you hear the words from week 1 of UFL all the way through the end of the year, it did have to make you pretty excited when you think about that. And they've dropped the ball on that marketing plug right there, if you really think about it.
No, I completely agree. And honestly, I understand that if you look at the UFL and the CFL, they're competitors, but the CFL is completely different than the UFL. They're also in a different time period. There's also been players that have jumped from the XFL or the USFL to the UFL to the CFL to finish out the season. So, I mean, at what point do you just not necessarily merge? Because obviously there's a whole lot of, logistics that don't make sense there. But at what point do you just work together? I mean, if it, like you said, if you work together, you promote the UFL from the CFL side and vice versa, maybe they both can prosper.
Hey, teamwork makes the dream work, my man. You know
Yes,
about
sir.
that, and that's how you gotta be in all facets of life. People can learn a lot from the game of football. You see the people who can't really interact with others and make something as a team effort. They weren't really good at sports or didn't participate in it. They didn't learn that core thing that you learn from playing sports. And football is one of the best alongside baseball, I feel like, with helping you adapt to the real world once you grow up. And those of you who are really good at it can keep doing it when you're older too.
I think that was a great point. I mean, honestly, football, baseball, you're one part of a larger team. It's not like basketball or, some of these other sports where you can kind of take over a game individually. So, I mean, yep, great point. Great point.
I appreciate it, because don't even get me started on Yo King. Cole can do it better, but I'm adopting it as well. But I'm glad to have a break from talking about Yo King tonight. With that being said, you guys, keep those comments rolling. You've been a little quiet here lately, but looks like you dropped off a little bit, but that's all good. We're going to keep things rolling into round 4, whether you're here live or syndicated. Do us both a favor, whatever platform you're watching on. Click that like button, comment, share it if you feel that it's a good episode. I'm feeling it right now. Let's take it into round 4.
Round 4.
And here with round 4, we like to have this thing each and every episode where it's by the numbers. And with this one being episode 115 and the fact that we didn't debate it yet, we have to take a look at who was the greatest to ever wear number 15 in all of sports history. His career still feels like it's just getting started because he's very, very young still. Not even 30 years old, and has 3 Super Bowl championships out of the past 5 years and going to 4 out of the last 5. I mean, looking at this, looking at how everything has panned out for this kid, do you agree with this statement right here? Do you think that Patrick Mahomes II is the greatest athlete to ever wear the number 15 in all of sports history, Sam?
Man, after hearing that lead in, it's incredibly hard to say this, but I am out on this one. So I am out because I believe the greatest athlete to ever wear the number 15 is Vince Carter. I know that a lot of people are going to get on here and probably debate my answer, and I completely understand that because Mahomes has done some amazing things. But Vince Carter has been one of the best basketball players in the world for much of the time I've been alive. I'm talking probably about 30 years. He was a McDonald's All-American way back in high school, before he even attended North Carolina, which is basically a basketball powerhouse. His number 15 is retired or honored by the North Carolina Tar Heels. On top of that, they also have scheduled it to be retired by the Brooklyn Nets. You got to consider that this guy stepped into the league and immediately started winning awards. 1999, he was Rookie of the Year. He was named to the All-Rookie team that year as well. 2000, he goes to the Olympics. He helps them win. 2000 to 2008, I believe, he was on the All-Pro team every single season. I mean, you literally look through this guy's career, and it is like a dictionary of every single award that can be handed out to a basketball player. Again, I think Patrick Mahomes is probably going to be, by the time he hangs it up, the greatest athlete to ever wear 15. As of right now, he's got a little bit more work to do to get to that point, in my opinion. So like I said, in my opinion, Vince Carter, the man who was known for essentially taking flight on dunks for many, many years, he's my pick for best athlete to ever wear 15 currently.
I can't even say for the sake of the debate on this one, Sam. Like I'm flabbergasted. It is that time of the show where all bets are off. I'm in. On the argument of the fact that he had the length of career, I'll give you that part. At least to bring that to the table for the argument. But the dictionary of awards, I get that you want to give him his flowers for getting almost every award that, even the participation award for the amount of years that he played in the league, probably, if there was such a thing. But you want to go against a kid that at this point, you want to go out on a kid who, at the tender age of 28, he's not even 29 yet. He turns 29 in September. The tender age of 28 years old, Sam Shady. You want to look at this situation and say that Vince Carter, because he can dunk a basketball into a hoop and can play a little bit longer than a kid who unlocked video game talent before the age of 28 to win 3 out of 4 Super Bowls within a 5-year span. And let's not even forget the kid set the bench his rookie year. So he would have had the Rookie of the Year award had he played his rookie year consistently. I mean, he did get some reps here and there, but Alex Smith was his pre-injury with the commies, colors there, okay, arm. Let's go back to that. But here and now, Alex Smith helped usher in the Patrick Mahomes era. Maybe he might have had a little bit of a rockier start had he played his rookie year, but I think he would have been good enough to get the Rookie of the Year. That would have been another accolade you can add to your dictionary of awards there, Sam Shady. Let's go over awards for a minute. You want to talk about the nicest dunk in a dunk contest, the amount of years he played in the league. You want to talk about those championship awards. Yeah, I said championships with an asterisk because look at the championships that Patrick Mahomes has over Vince Carter. He has 3. Vince Carter has mother, father, and 0. Okay. Yes, you have less people you have to play with on the court. But football, as you know, and I know, I can't believe as you would have an all football episode that you would pick Vince, mother, father, and Carter. Go basketball on me. You come in here, deal with the champ. I don't even have the belt out here tonight. But what I will say is this. I am flabbergasted, Sam Shady. I'm looking forward to the clips I can make out of this. I don't even know if I'm done yet. I kind of feel like I need to keep going because I only listed his 3 championships, all right? We're going to look at some other prestigious dictionary of awards. It might be a smaller dictionary, but it's in bold print and bigger font, brother, to where you can read it a little bit better than that smaller print of Vince Carter. All right, let's look at this right here. He's not only 3-time Super Bowl champion, but in all 3 of those championships he has. How many MVPs does he have? Not 1, not 2, but all mother, father, and 3, Sam Shady. You want to say that this dictionary of awards by Vince Carter is better than not only having 3 Super Bowl championships, all right? This is 3 separate trophies, brother, with different years. No participation award because you were there for, a little bit longer than you should have, because Vince Carter did play a couple years longer than he should have just to pad his stats. But when you think about that, and all 3 of those were Super Bowl MVPs, and they were done before he even turned 29, okay? With the most recent one being at the age of 28 earlier this year. One of those MVPs might be questionable over some other performances in the game because they don't give enough respect to other positions when a quarterback plays to a certain caliber. I'll give you that. But he would still have 2 and 3 Super Bowl championships regardless, because it's a team effort. And Vince Carter wasn't on a team that put in the effort to get not even one successful NBA championship, with him being a star athlete. That's the key thing too. Patrick Mahomes not only is doing it, still in the motion of doing it, but he's in his mother, father, and prime right now. We can still see this go on for another 10 or 15 years if he plays to try to beat Tom Brady's records, which he might even be able to do before the age of 45. And if he does play the next 15 years, it only puts him at age 43. We have only seen greatness begun. As long as they have a great succession plan, when Andy Reid, your former coach, decides to hang him up as a head coach of the team, that I feel like will make more of an impact on his career than what we may realize, because around that time, Kelsey's probably going to retire because he's getting up there in age. They want to keep writing the books a little bit. And I think he's going to get another 1 or 2 before Andy Reid hangs it up, because, that's a pretty sweet success story to go from a challenging situation with Philadelphia to make them successful, then to get ousted out of there. It was actually in a pretty nice way, considering how Philly does turn on people at certain points. You got to admit that. Andy Reid had a respectable exit and did the ultimate FU by winning not 1, not 2, but 3 championships in 5 years. And it wouldn't have been without this kid right here. I can't believe you didn't give love to your former coach on this. This is one of the longest, this is the longest answers I've ever given, just because I'm flabbergasted at you, Sam Shady. But at the same time, I understand your argument with the length of time with Vince Carter, but I felt like there have been other number 15s you could have argued with that might have been a part of a team that won a championship, but might not have been as impactful. Because they have a championship, you'd still put that up there. But to do that against Patrick LeVon Mahomes, to second, to quote Kyle Nash, the student of the game, I'm flabbergasted. So what do you have to say to this, Sam Shady? I'm lost for words.
To be completely honest, like you said, it's primarily years of service. We talk about Vince Carter being good for, like I said, 3 decades. He was one of the few NBA players to play in 3 separate decades and actually dominate in it. And which, to me, that's a huge, huge accomplishment. Like I said, I fully anticipate by the time Patrick Mahomes is done, he's going to bury every record that was ever known to man. Either that, or he's going to go out on a career-ending injury and we'll always wonder what was. But as of right now, it's a slight edge. It's a very slight edge. But I have to give the edge to Vince Carter. And like I said, very, very, very slight. Oh, you can't even see it. I'm almost touching my fingers together. But I just personally think Vince Carter has done it for a lot longer and has a longer body of work. But Patrick Mahomes, by the time he retires, he's going to be the greatest NFL player, greatest quarterback, greatest everything in terms of, NFL players for sure.
Well, I wrote this as an open-ended one for you to go out. But the reason why I was flabbergasted was I thought you would have picked another football player that won 2 Super Bowl championships at the beginning of the Super Bowl era, and that being Bart Starr with the Green Bay Packers, because it was harder to win Super Bowls consistently back then. They did it back-to-back. And with the greatest coach of all, one of the arguably the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach of all time, Vince Lombardi, because of what he also built when he went to Washington that posthumously happened. Okay. And it started it ignited the fire that 10 years later they finally got their first championship, or at least in the Super Bowl era. But when I think about all that, and you bring some good points there, but I think that by the time you've accomplished 3 Super Bowl championships and 3 MVPs before the age of 30, and with still like another year and a half left in your 20s when he did the last one, I feel like at that point the impact of those championships, the leadership that he had to do at that young age that Vince Carter couldn't do, even though he did get better and evolve as time got older and played his role well, which is why he lasted in the game as long as he did. So I get your argument there, but I don't think that I would have given you such a passionate answer. I think I would have caved in a little bit if you would have said Bart Starr, because 2 Super Bowl championships during a time where they were literally biting off mother, father, and kneecaps. I'd have been like, yeah, I'll give you Bart Starr. Like I could easily be on the road to concession at that point. Vince Carter, because he got his Social Security pension while he was still in the NBA. You gave him that. Like I had to give you a hard time on that one, brother, as we got some comments that rolled in during that time that we got to acknowledge before we go to our last commercial break. But Sick Diggy's in the house. Says greetings from Norway. This is what makes SIRTOBA Media international, as well as with our other brothers out here, which Sick definitely follows you guys too. So definitely appreciate Sick being in the house. And Ike is back at the shenanigans again. Says, what the fuck? Vince fucking Carter, Sam. Even he's on the same page as I guess he's trying to say for Drew, you need to
Acknowledge me.
Hey, Sam handled it like a champ. He really did. I gotta say, when it came to the rebuttal and all that, to where by the end of it, he wasn't saying this.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Yeah, take it back to the good old days where movies were definitely, it was like one of these moments every time these movies came out.
Surprise, motherfucker.
That's just how Sam got me in this past round. So when I think about all that, that's how we were rocking and rolling at round 4. Ike says to Sick Diggy, says, what up, Diggy? Along with Vince Carter is an NBA great. The man had quite the highlight reel. Don't forget about the Nike shoe commercials. Absolutely. I mean, he's actually defending you on this one when it came to my long spiel. This was around the time I was going off. I was going ham on that topic. It says Vinsanity, a.k.a. Air Canada. So some more things to add to layers to what you were saying as well. And you even commented with, yes, sir, Sick during that, as I probably gave a little bit of an extended rebuttal that you weren't expecting. So,
oh, you're fine. You had plenty of reasoning.
What's good, Sick? Ike says, Sick, along with how you doing, Mickey Delaney. Love the love going on out here in the streams with Ike. Are you and D Diggy staying in your Ian's? Does that mean I ain't never scared, or is that Lane for you meant to put S? Because if you want me to go bring some crunk music back, we can with Never Scared. Don't make me take it back 2002 there, Mickey. I'll educate you a little bit out here on my portfolio of music knowledge. So I used to play a little bit slap of the bass. We'll get to that another time. You guys have seen the pictures. Mickey says, I'm okay, along with I have to keep Drew in his lane. Yes, Mick, I appreciate you being the comment cop out here in these streams. You keep me in check when needed, and so far, me and Sam are driving in cruise control, staying in our lane. Hope you guys are entertained out here, as it looks like it with, will you hurry up for the love of God, Drew? So he was definitely like waiting for me to get to my point there because of the extended edition of that topic. And when it comes to this right here, as always, whether you're watching on Shady Sports Network or on SIRTOBA Media, make sure when it comes to this video right here, you like it, you share it, you subscribe to these channels you're watching, or however you found it out here in these streams. Guys, thank you for the love out here in the comments. You got a little bit longer to keep bringing it as we are live, and we have one more round to get to. But before we get to that round, we have to take our last commercial break. When we come back, we got some more fire to bring you. I hope you guys are ready for this last one, especially if you like playing video games. We'll see you here on the other side of this commercial break.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason Whitlock.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D. Willie in the evening.
this Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern
exclusively on SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your commanders to be repped right? Well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern, 10:05 a.m. Central on the SIRTOBA Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where's my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Left side.
Welcome back to the In or Out Sports Debate, episode 115, as we are live in your screen, on your streams, whether it's your phone, your tablet, even your TV, or if you're listening to us on the radio at some point, we are here in your ear or in your eyes. Right now, we got one more round to get to. Got to bring it into some great action that we still have left for you, and that is in the final round.
Final round.
And here with the final round, let's take it to some video game action. You know, we're older, we can't play them as consistently, but that doesn't mean we can't talk about it when it comes to this. EA Sports overrated Arch Manning in College Football 25 video game, with it being set to be released here soon. Thinking about the rating that he got in this game there, Sam. What are your thoughts on this? Think he's overrated? Are you in or are you out on this?
Just to be clear, if I'm in, it means he's overrated, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'm out on this one.
Bring it.
I could surprise Drew at least twice in this episode. But the big reason I personally think that he is not overrated is obviously a lot of the time, especially in college, when you're rating these players, you're going off potential. Well, personally, if it was me and I had the last name of Manning and I was in an EA Sports game, I would expect to be 70 or better at the very minimum. Maybe that's just me. I'm 5'10", 160. I'm nowhere near being a quarterback at the professional level or in the college level. So in my personal opinion, when you look at that family, and literally they are football players to the core, you know, whether it's Archie, Peyton, Eli, Cooper, who I'm told would have been the best athlete out of the family had he gotten a chance to actually play in the professional ranks. You know, this family has rewritten record books from start to finish. Who am I to think that Arch Manning is not going to be able to follow that legacy and live up to, you know, the how do I even put this? The air that the Peyton Manning or the Manning family has, you know, whether it's Eli, Peyton, Archie, it doesn't matter at this point. But also on top of that, you look back at his high school career, and he actually might be the most talented raw athlete out of the entire Manning quarterback tree. I mean, he's way more mobile than Peyton Manning ever was. He embarrasses Eli in any athletic ability. And then Arch Manning, he's in a completely different era. We won't even talk about his skill set compared to Arch. So, I mean, then when you look at the spring game, and he lit it up. 355 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. So to me, this isn't necessarily coming out of nowhere. This is coming out of the information you have at hand. Do you have a whole lot of information based on his collegiate career so far? No, you do not. So yeah, they probably could have underrated him a little bit more just to make it a little bit more realistic. But at the same time, again, this is a member of the Manning family. There aren't many families like that produce nonstop NFL talent. So in my mind, who am I to argue with an 87 rating for Arch in his sophomore season?
You're right. You got me twice, back to back. I was not expecting that, but it's kind of like playing a video game. You just unlocked the mother, father, and cheat code. Because when it comes to this one, I am in. Sam Shady, you think that he deserves this on a technicality, that he deserves this on the fact of entitlement because his father was supposed to be great. And it was sad with what happened to Cooper. I get that. He had 2 legendary quarterbacks that people will talk about that played in the NFL because they have 2 Super Bowls. However, it was proven that the team effort was more powerful against Tom Brady with the Giants and their defense coming up big. And then that one helmet catch that really saved it all for Eli. It's easy to be a Manning in this next generation with the way that training and everything has evolved to look better than Eli did. Okay. Eli could sling the ball and was fairly accurate and threw for a lot of yards, had a lot of help because he did have some pretty decent wide receivers. Okay. But you want to tell me that a quarterback who played last year, and Sam Shady, let's go over his stat line real quick, okay? But you want to bring up stats earlier with the CFL? I'm going to bring up some mother father's stats with Arch Manning real quick, all right? 2 completions last season, Sam Shady, for 5 attempts. You're going to say, well, yeah, he was limited to 5 attempts, but he only completed 2 of them. If you want to get an 87 rating in the game of football, and you are the backup quarterback, not the one, because Quinn Ewers is the number 1 starting quarterback for Texas. Okay, you want to be the backup quarterback, complete 2 passes in 5 attempts, just 5, but you complete 4 out of 5. I'll give you that 87. You earned a respect on that. You completed 4 out of your 5 passes. But not only did he only complete 2 out of 5 passes, he only had 30 yards. You're going to say, well, Drew, he averages 15 yards per completion. It still was 2 out of 5, okay? When you break that down, when you really think about the percentages here, 40% completion percentage, and you get an 87 rating in the game of college football, the first college game in several years. And let's just keep in mind here, this is just the initial set of ratings. If you play Madden, you play other sports games, as the season goes on and you buy it brand new, of course, you're going to get that internet update. If he sucks, they're gonna decrease his value on there. If he's better and deserves the 87, it will stay there by the time the season starts once he gets action to where he can do better than 2 of 5 completions for 30 yards. Yes, you got 15 yards per catch, but it took you 5 attempts to get 2 completions. Good job, Manning. Good job, next big thing. You're going to come up into my house and say you get an 87 rating when you absolutely are mediocre. I'm not going to say you absolutely suck because that's a little bit derogatory at this point. He is a Manning. I'll give you that. Okay. But your freshman season, you get to flop on out there for 5 passes. Okay. And I say flop because, yeah, you flopped on 3 out of 5. It still means you had 1 more incompletion than completion that you had last season, which equates to a 40% completion percentage. Oh, well, because he didn't turn the ball over, he had a 90.4 rating last year. Is that what gives him the 87 for the video game? If it takes getting a 90, but you have less completions out of a number of attempts that you should have 4 out of 5 if you expect to get an 87 or 88 in that range, is what I would rate it. But maybe when it comes to numbers, because I work with them a lot here and there, I might be a little bit more critical. You also can't give everything to them on the entitlement of the name Manning. All right, I see your point, Sam Shady. And again, even the times where we disagree tonight, you did bring up some solid points that made me think. But you know what they did at the same time, Sam? They motivated me to bring even more fire in this action to prove how right this side is. And of course, we have the comments from the fans who are participating. We'll get to your comments here in a moment. Whether you agree with Sam and you disagree with the fact that he's overrated, or you come to the side. It's like Jerry Maguire said, who's coming with me? Okay? And who's coming with me on the fact that you still got to earn your stripes a little bit, okay? And the fact that video games are not like they were when you and I played 20 years ago when we were kids, okay? And we were playing Madden and we were playing those editions of NCAA football. The internet's evolved to where you and I are doing this from different states, different, times, everything. We're in different areas to where we can do this. Like people play video games now, which is cool. What's cool about the evolution of the internet in time is that you may buy a game on launch day, but if you're connected to the internet, they're going to real-time update the stats when games start to happen in August and September and October when we get to bowl season. And, of course, there's other ways to pad the stats, too, because you can play, like, the My Player mode, and you can do great in that, and you can make his stats go up even more there, and everything's cool. But what's not cool, Sam Shady, is the fact that you have an 87 rating, and you're going to come here and say that on the mere fact of entitlement, because he has the name Manning, because he will be a third-generation Manning if, keyword is if, he makes to the NFL. Now, if he plays as a backup quarterback or has a rating of 40% completion percentage, and that rating drops, let's have a bonus topic on top of this, since we can add this to give them more time to add some more comments in there, since we are doing really good on time right now. If all this comes into fruition for you, okay, let's backtrack that. Let me bring you back on up here for a second as the hamster wheel is spinning upstairs with this thought. All right, when you think about Arch Manning here, and especially the love you just gave him on the technicality of entitlement, could we see something similar? Not in the way of like the uncles playing with Arch Manning, but could we see some Manning magic pulled in the draft again to where you're only going to go where you want to go? But do you really think that if he finishes his college career on 40% completion percentage, that he's not only going to get drafted to the NFL and have a successful career, but the way you just hyped him up because of the name Manning, he should automatically go number 1 overall next year if he decided to enter the NFL draft just because his name is fathering Manning. How do you feel about that one?
Well, I don't know about number 1 in the draft, but I feel like just based off name alone, a team would draft him. It doesn't matter what he did in college, to be quite honest. But I see your point. 40% completion rate, not great at all. And obviously, the spring game, you're not necessarily playing against the top talent, so you got to skew those statistics quite a bit. But I definitely think at least he has something on tape where he's performed at the college level. I could understand if all he had done was those two completions his entire time in college. But that spring game, I think, gives them a little bit more reason why they can kind of hype him up a little bit. But yeah, honestly, I think if he ended his college career tomorrow, I think the floor for him is probably 5th round, to be quite honest. And that means no more statistics. He doesn't throw another pass in college. He just gets drafted as he sits. And I think that's just, again, based off reputation alone.
You just shot yourself in the foot, Sam Shady. So you're saying right now, if the season ended right now, he had the same stats or did the same thing again, he would be a 5th round pick? So how does that warrant him to have an 87 overall rating as a backup quarterback if that could potentially be on the table for this season?
Well, to be quite honest, I don't know that anything necessarily warrants an 87 as a backup. That is obviously a tough position to be in for sure. But, again, like I said, he did play some football and he did look really well. It looked good. He showed pocket presence. He showed some escapability to get away from the rush when it got through. And, he's going to be playing with some really quality receivers around him, a great offensive line, solid running talent. The defense is solid there in Texas. So, he's got a great supporting cast. The big question there, obviously, as we both know here, is when is he going to get a chance to start? And that's the big thing. I mean, does he ultimately end up transferring? Does he end up going to another school to get that shot? Does Quinn Ewers transfer? I mean, like, there's a lot of questions about when he will get his chance and if he can, unseat Ewers in the process. But this is a unique situation, I think. How often do you see two top 5 college talents in terms of quarterback on the same team? I mean, it's not often that we see generational quote unquote talent like Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning on the same team. It's incredibly rare. I've never seen anything like that happen in my life. And to be completely honest, when I saw Arch Manning go to Texas, I was like, okay, that's the end for Quinn Ewers. Apparently I was a little bit off there, but we'll see how things progress. If Ewers comes out and he falls flat on his face, do we see them pull the plug on him and put Manning in? I mean, granted, that's a totally hypothetical question that probably will not happen, but I think honestly, once Manning gets his opportunity in college, I expect him to look good. I expect him to not necessarily light the world on fire, but I expect him to look like an efficient quarterback that knows how to play the game, who's grown up in a household of NFL players. So I mean, he's got a different upbringing than a lot of college players. It's not every day that you can be around 3 Hall of Famers on a daily basis. So I mean, there is that. He's got an above average level of understanding of football when it comes to any player, to be quite honest.
You saved it there, because when we first heard from you on this topic, you said generational talent, which was keywords in your second half of this debate with this, which is really, really spot on. And it helps me see your side a little bit more, because I got ramped up in that one, but because I saw your first part of your answer being like more like the entitlement part, and generational wealth was what I was hearing more based on the Manning name rather than generational talent. Because when we reel it back in even more, the fact that the little clip that will be inside the game where him and the other Mannings had a small part of the intro that they recorded, he got $500,000 in his NIL deal, attached to his NIL money or whatnot, for just that little 30-second clip of him being in the game. This is why I'm saying is so much hype on a backup quarterback that at the time of the creation of the game that you get $500,000 for in your NIL deal because your last name is Manning, generational wealth, and you're still a backup quarterback, 2 of 5 completions. You still have 40% completions with some wild 90% rating, but it's going to be truth or dare this year, because he's going to get some more playing time than 5 passes, whether it's through the team is up, because they do have a really stacked team this year, which is why Ewers came back for his senior season. I was shocked, honestly, that Arch didn't transfer to another team this past offseason through the portal. But maybe he sees something, or the Manning sees something as him getting more time. They might do dual quarterback action just to see what they have as a succession plan, but also make Ewers look good for his next step if he does want to play NFL football. So I see your points there, but you reeled it back in really well, because, again, I felt like you were going on the generational wealth side of the name Manning at first. And then you gave up some really good points in the second half of that to get me to understand not only your point, which I did understand it, but a little bit more of the in-depth point of it. Very, very well said. It's definitely one of the great ones that we can disagree on, and we can see what they have to say in the chat about it now, as it's time for us to acknowledge those comments. There's a lot of love going on over here. It looks like Mickey's loving Ike. I'm going to have to keep an eye on you guys out there. Be careful out there in these streams. Mickey says, yep, along with I love you, Ike. Ike says, bring back D. Willie in the evening, as around the time the commercials were playing. Well, I did put a story out the other day. It is returning this fall. But for those of you tuning in each week, I'm just lucky to still have this show going with the way everything's going in my life right now. But it's all for good reasons. But we're having a good time tonight, before, and in the future. So stay tuned. We've got some good ones coming up for you as well. And then, of course, the love continues. Ike says, love you, Mickey. And apparently love the Build-A-Bear reference, where my lane leads me to a local Build-A-Bear with @Mickey Delaney tagging along. As for those of you who've been around, Mickey's name on here used to be something teddy bear. It's like loving the teddy bear. And since then, Sick Diggy's been giving him a hard time about them going to a local Build-A-Bear and creating the Mickey-sized Build-A-Bear. There it is. There's some more shenanigans for you guys out here in these streams. If you've been waiting for some additional ones, or if you haven't, you can just say this.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no.
Absolutely. Keep them comments rolling as we're a little bit longer left. We still got to do some inductions here in a second, but the Build-A-Bear part was good there, Ike Goon. And I love you as well, Diggy. There's a lot of love going on out here between Mick, Sick, and Ike. There's a lot of love going on out here in these streams. Sick also says, Mickey Delaney is tough on people staying in their lanes, but deep down, he's a lovable teddy bear. You know, I couldn't have said that any better. When it comes to your verbatim of text there, Sick, I'll give you this Triple H quote.
I am the game, and I am that damn good.
If you're looking for sports and shenanigans, you're in the right place.
You got the right one, baby.
What?
Facts. Now, let's see what else you guys got out here now. And it says, I meant click on it. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you sharing the episode earlier today with Cole with Total Football Talk and this one, Mick. You know, every little bit helps. So thank you very much for helping us with the views out here in these streams. I come with you, my brother Drew. Testify. Oh, you want to testify? Clip? All right, yeah.
Oh, my brother, testify.
You just got me with that surprise there, Mick.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Now, some of you are probably watching this show as we are slightly off the rails at this point saying,
Stop it. Get some help.
But how would it not be entertaining if we didn't add these little clips in there? Even though some of you are probably looking at a picture with me down there with the long hair saying this.
Stay off the weed.
Hey, people who miss the playoffs smoke weed on a consistent basis. We're in the playoffs every single day out here, so y'all keep it right out here and do right out here in these streets when it comes to you, Mick. Other than that, keep on with comments, the cops. Subscribe now, never miss out on new content no matter how you're watching this show right now. We still have one more thing to get to, and that is the Vault of Fame. It's time to induct Sam and bring this party on to a close.
Acknowledge me.
That's right. The In-Or-Out Sports Debate Vault of Fame. It's time to induct Sam Shady, who is now locked in the vault with 114 episodes with him to keep you guys entertained for many years to come. And for that, here's a little bit of word from those in the vault.
What's that?
As now Sam is in the vault with episode 115. And he adds to this leaderboard right here. He's now the 18th person to come on here for the first time. Hope to increase that number of 2 times with him to get on here another time at some point down the road. But through 115 episodes, this is what the leaderboard looks like. If I didn't keep up with this shit, like from the start of this thing, I don't know how I'd have that number. You make a graph, you just add to it as time goes on. I don't have time to be figuring out numbers all the time. I can add you to it. Now you are in the vault, which you can find this on Facebook, Instagram, and X, as well as YouTube. SIRTOBA.com, where the struggle is real to be awesome. And again, the struggle is real to be awesome. And if you haven't heard it enough, here it is one more time.
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
We're back for episode 115, and we do have one more thing we have left to do.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Got to take this unit on into the final word. Sam, out of all the things we talked about today, all the different topics, some random things that may have come up in the chat or just things in sports that you currently want to talk about with the people, I'm going to take a few minutes and close this on out with your words.
Absolutely. So I am not going to comment on the recent transgressions against Trump and everything that went on with the political situation. I know a lot of people are talking about that right now, but I think that we need to focus on more positive things. So I have not touched on that, not going to touch on that. So I apologize for anybody who's looking for my answer on how I feel about those things. It's just not going to happen. But with all that being said, congratulations to the Billings Outlaws. You can see a Billings jersey behind me. For winning their game against the Nashville Cats this past weekend. They are headed to the championship game against the Albany Firebirds. Sorry, almost said Empire. I have been calling this matchup since before the season ever began. If you look at these rosters, they are stacked top to bottom. The coaching staffs are unbelievable, and they are honestly going to put on a show on Saturday night at the American Dream Center. So I really, really recommend that you tune in on CBS Sports this upcoming weekend because it's going to be a great game. And then while you're there, you might as well tune into the CFL game that is on right afterward as well. So you get to the Arena Bowl, the 33rd Arena Bowl, the first in over 5 years, and then you can also get some great CFL action. Before those games, you can also catch us every Saturday on my channel, Shady Sports Network. We do a show called Around the Indoor Football World. We discuss all of the indoor football leagues that exist. There's several of them, trust me. And we can kind of keep you informed on all the latest news on all of those. Shout out to Drew for letting me come on the show. It was a lot of fun, Honestly, didn't know what to expect coming into this. And I am super happy that I agreed to come on to this because it was a blast, well-produced show. Honestly, extremely impressed by all the effort you put into this show, Drew. Thank you for having me on, and I look forward to coming back on in the future.
Hey, thanks for that sentiment, brother. And you might, with that, just have added yourself to not only the Vault of Fame, but that last mic drop that you just threw out there might be worthy to enter in with Dwayne Allen with some inspirational words in there. So I appreciate you. You're giving me gold out here to work with when it comes to my editing game. So I appreciate you. And you crushed it with your final take on that. And again, I thank you for taking your time. Look forward to getting up with you for a few more minutes once this thing ends. But before that, got to take my turn right here. Today, guys, was a very interesting day from start to finish for me. Those of you who've watched 115 episodes of this show, you and especially have been a part of this, especially since last year, especially when I suffered the TIA, which is short for, shorter version for a mini stroke. It kind of set me back for a little bit. We had to take a break from this for a little bit because Sam, now being part of this show tonight, sees how in-depth and detailed I am with the prep, to where I try to make it like when you look at Cole Johnson's productions and him and I working together as long as we have. I had this before he and I even met, but working with him, there's been certain things that have inspired me to up the ante with this show as time has gone on, to where now that Sam is here, he finally got to experience it. And it's something I've been thinking about for a while, but I don't ever just jump into things. Like, everything's planned out. Everything happens for a reason. And I wanted it to be at the right time. And I'm glad that Sam took the invite and we made it happen today and blew it out the water. I mean, we got a couple comments here, and we'll acknowledge them here when I'm done before we hit that outro button. But I agree with that sentiment too, especially from you there, Ike, and you, Mick. I appreciate you guys, because even if it's one of you watching while it's live, or two, or 100, or even if you share it and it gets 100 or 200 views after it's live, it's still teamwork. It takes you guys out there in the chat, along with my guests, because what would this debate show if it was just me being up here debating topics? That'd be lame. Okay, you gotta be creative. And I've been very fortunate enough to not only work with others on their platforms out here and bring them here, or see other things that my friends are sharing, or be a part of groups like, Sam and I are in, where we have mutual connections that will vouch for each other, to where I can confidently extend those invitations. And I already have a roadmap of how it's going to lay out in my head. I already had some good expectations for tonight, but for someone who is not privy to debating, okay, he came up here and knocked out the park and stood tall in these last two rounds too, against somebody who is not shy out here in these streets or on these streams. So you gotta be a very special talent in order to come in here and impress me like that. So Sam, I'm glad I said all that motivational stuff I said to you in the chat earlier to help get the leg up, to show you that I believe in you, brother. And you came out here, and like Ike said, you absolutely crushed it. And to the fans out there who kept this going throughout different parts of the episode with the comments, you helped make this thing flow. And again, I couldn't do it without the panelists. I couldn't do it without the guests. And at some point down the road, before too long, before I got to take another break again when things have to balance back out again, we're going to have you back on here, brother. And next time we'll be with another person or so. We'll have a trios or a quads edition, because those are usually the ones that I do. But for the first time, that we got up on the stream together. The people deserve to just see me and you for the first time building that chemistry on the fly. And there's not many people that I trust to do it, but because of you and the way you carry yourself on your network with your team, you deserve that opportunity tonight. And that's why I wanted you to know on this way out that I had all the faith in the world in you, brother. And you set the tone for other people that will be doing the same thing at some point down the road on not only this program and this platform, but for other platforms to come who saw this. And even if one person got inspired by it tonight, I didn't do it by myself, brother. You were here. The millennials kicked ass tonight. You know what I'm saying? We get one cuss word on this show to keep it PG-13, and there it is. Okay. If any kids watched it at watching this at hour 1 hour and 26 minutes, you might want to fast forward 10 seconds. So you might okay. Other than that, if you don't mind them hearing the A word just once in the show, I gave you one. But other than that, Sam Shady, make sure you check him out at Shady Sports Network. If you're watching this on Shady Sports Network at some point, come on over to SIRTOBA Media. Let's mutually help each other collaborate and build out their dreams no matter what the platform is. Because teamwork makes the dream work, as we covered many times throughout this football episode. Even though I'm still baffled over Vince Carter, I'll forgive you for that. We have one more thing left to do. Let's look at one badass outro that even Cole Johnson made for me for this show. I had to get him to be part of it, and he did with this. And with that being said, everyone, as always, stay safe out here in these streets.
SIRTOBA Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
You don't have to go home, but you got to get yourself on up out of here. The guy with the hair is gone, but the person underneath still lives on. Check us out next week for episode 116. And as always, stay safe out here in these streets.